Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. Just got off a accountability call with the Inner Circle guys. Man, those guys are just crushing it. I loved it, right? Do you know what? They all have this little cocky swagger about them. Some cussing going back and forth on the call just from passion, and they're just great. The energy was great between them. It was a real great, informal, accountable, positive GSD vibe, calling each other out, and it was great. It was great.
Well, and for those that guys are listening who don't know what we're talking about, at the Powerful Man, we have several programs after our baseline. You have to go through the baseline, but one of them is, just shy down from one-on-one coaching, which we do from time to time, is the Inner Circle. It's kind of the highest echelon. And these are where guys make a make a large financial commitment as well as time commitment, but it's more of an energetic commitment. These guys are just choosing to play at a high level. And when you pay attention. That's something that I've always believed in. And these guys are making huge strides. I mean, talk about guys that, not too long ago were on the brink of divorce, and now their wife's pulling them into the shower. And the joke was, about this guy having to get literally.
He was having a vasectomy last week.
Yeah.
And he made the joke, hey, I won't say his wife's name, obviously, but hey, let's just call her Lisa. Hey, Lisa, I'm going in for the vasectomy. How about you, help me empty my balls? Just joking, right?
Yeah.
And she's
like,
okay.
Yeah.
And she did.
That's the crazy
she was on a period, and so the way that she did it was very serving of the guy. So it was just great. And it's not so much about the act, although it's nice to get the kind of things that he's getting, but it's more about what it represents, about the work he's done in the relationship.
Yep.
And how emotionally safe and trusting she is with him now, that she's now completely giving herself to him. And he's really starting to see what is possible there. And even to the point last night, check this out, Doug. I just heard this. You'll like this. They were going around dinner tables, giving thanks and saying prayers. And it got to his wife, who said, I'm thankful for Daddy and all the changes he's made over the past year. And I'm thankful for the powerful man.
Woo!
And we got a shout out. I was like, yeah.
At the dinner table at the Wins. Yeah, and the guy you're talking about, who I know,
who listens to this, by the way.
He's a great guy. I'm not going to share anything that, against him, but it wasn't too long ago when he entered the program that, he and his wife, all they did was yell and scream and throw dishes, if I recall, and like literally throw dishes. And it was gnarly.
To the point where he would go back and watch because he got some cameras in his house. He'd go back and watch the recording of the argument to see what he did and how it unfolded. And, he'll be listening to this, and I'm sure that's the thought of that is such a thing of the past. We did his monthly review last week, and he was like, Tim, I'm off to the beach house next week for 3 weeks for spring break. And you know what? It was 12 months ago to the day that I was at rock bottom. I remember going on this trip 12 months ago, a couple of weeks before, and I was thinking, how the hell am I going to make it through this trip? I was Googling all sorts of different things around divorce, and I was on antidepressants, and I was just in a really dark place. And now 1 year on, I cannot believe that the changes I've made, and I'm literally in the best place I've ever been. And it's total credit to this guy, because he's really he's really turned and confronted a lot of his fears, and he's done the work, and he's continuing to do the work. And I said to him today, I said, look, the danger for you right now is to get complacent and cocky.
Yeah.
Because you're now in the place where you are getting some great rewards and treats. Don't get attached to them. Don't start thinking that, just continue being who you're being, and, watering the soil and taking care of the sunlight for the flower, and it'll continue to keep blossoming.
Yeah, I mean, we can go on and on. I can't wait to meet this guy. You and I were talking about our next event for the Inner Circle guys specifically, and I've actually never met this guy in person. And it's interesting with COVID and everything. These guys are all phenomenal, and this guy in particular, I really feel like a bond with, just on a personal level. And super excited to meet him, give him a bear hug, and listen to some Eric Church, perhaps, et cetera, et cetera. So, man, I could talk about this all day because I got more wins I want to share with you from another guy in the inner circle I was talking to yesterday. But let's get on. For our listeners' sake, let's move on to the next topic. So, Tim, I know you're not prepped for this, and so I'm kind of setting you up in a good way because I think the listeners will also benefit from this. But do you know what's often called Warren Buffett's secret?
No.
Great.
Although I did hear something great that Warren Buffett said the other week that might be his secret, if I can have a guess.
You can definitely have a guess.
So Warren Buffett, what I came across that he said is he believes that one of the biggest differences between him and other people that have, either trying to be successful or are successful is the love that he received from his father as a kid.
Ooh.
Yeah, he said he received unconditional love from his father, and he believes that is one of the secrets of his success.
That is awesome to hear. I have not heard that, and that's not the secret I was going to talk about, but wow, that could be a whole separate podcast in itself coming up, and maybe we'll do that one next, as listeners know how much we just basically, you and I just chat on this thing going through to deliver for them. So what I'm going to call a secret is a little bit, like I said, I'm kind of leading this, but it's the 25-5 rule. And it's also called that. And the story's got a lot of, it's almost like a lot of mythology behind it of what the origin of it is. The one I've most commonly read about is that Warren Buffett has a private pilot, no real, surprise there. And his pilot was talking to him and saying, hey, as these planes age and, what have you, I really would like us to upgrade into this other plane. And Warren goes, well, that's not going to be for another 10 years that we're going to need something like that. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm just looking ahead. This is the technology I think we're going to want. And Warren stops for a second and says, you know what? If you're working for me 10 years from now, I have failed you as a leader. I have failed you as a boss. If that's your aspirations. And the guy looked at him and was like, okay, well, what do I do? And Warren said, here's what I want you to do. And guys, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a worksheet and a workbook that you can actually walk through this whole 25-5 system that Warren uses. And he's used this before and it's worked successfully for a lot of other business owners. And there's been articles all about this. But Tim, he's going back and he's talking to his pilot and says, look, this is what I want you to do. I want you to write down your top 25 goals. Just write them down. So the pilot says, okay. And he sits down and starts writing them off, what he wants to do. And I don't remember what his goals are, but for a lot of guys that are listening to this, maybe you want to 2x your revenue in your business, or you want to get to a certain financial income. Maybe you want, one of your goals is to reconcile with your wife, or go from, as we talk about, arguing 3 to 5 nights a week to having bang out passionate sex 3 to 5 nights a week, right? You want to write those out, those 25 things. And an easy framework, 'cause I've done this with a few of our clients, Tim, is to look at the 5 territories. Now, those 5 territories, for guys that aren't familiar with this, right, is self, health, wealth, relationships, and business, right? Those are obvious. Those are the 5 territories. And look at those 25 things. So what he said next, Tim, wasn't unordinary. So I know you're getting this. You're like, oh, great, 25 goals. Like, yeah, I can do this. No problem. He said, what I want you to do now is circle the 5 that are most important for you. The 5 that you have the most passion around, and the 5 that really mean the most to you. So his pilot sits there and goes, okay. Circles the 5 that, that he really wants the most. And then Warren says, what are you going to do with the other 20? What would you do, Tim? And I'll tell you what his pilot says.
Well, I would hope that as I'm going through this, the 5 that I circle will ideally have a knock-on effect on the other 20, just, happening by default, because maybe those 5 are some bigger ones that, encompass the smaller ones.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And obviously you're a smart guy and you've been coaching elite men for a long time. And before that, you were working on yourself. So you know the game. But Warren said something I thought was really cool. And what he said, well, the pilot, first of all, said, well, geez, Warren, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on those 5. Those are going to be my priority. Well, I got some time. I'll work on the other 20. So maybe The other 20 might have been learn a foreign language, play the guitar, what have you. In my spare time, I'll learn. And so Warren Buffett said, no, that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Of course, the pilot was taken back. Like, what do you mean? He said, no. These 5 things are your focus. You're right there. These 20 things go onto a separate list. And these are the absolute do not do, do not touch, do not spend any time in zone. And the reason being, which I love, the reason being is we'll dabble, right? Let's say it's learning Italian or learning Spanish or playing the guitar. You'll do it sometimes, but you'll never get proficient. You'll never get good. And that just will distract from your other 5. So what Warren's talking about here, Tim, which I think we can all take to heart, is the fact that if we have these 5 primary goals, let's say it's salvage your relationship, something we talk about a lot, say it's your business or even learning a foreign language, go all in on those 5, 100% all in with dedicated focus and reckless abandon. Hopefully not reckless, but you get the idea. And then, and only when you finish those 5, do you replace those 5 with possibly those 20 or possibly something else, right? Really placing with another 5. Because to learn a foreign language, for example, studies show that immersion in that language is by far the most important thing. If you were to learn Italian and practice once a week, maybe never, but maybe 10 years from now, you'd be able to have a good conversation with somebody. But really once a week becomes once a month, and you miss one here, you miss one there. You're still trying to order, spaghetti and a glass of wine. Whereas if you just focused on for 1 year and said, this is one of my 5, I am going to learn to speak fluent Italian, you would probably achieve it. And then you could go on to the next goal. And so what I see with a lot of people, and frankly, I see it in myself probably more than anybody, is that desire for that shiny new object syndrome. Because you look at that list of 25 and what do you initially say? Well, shit, I want all 25. And it's kind of like eating. Your eyes are bigger than your stomach is a saying that's kind of often used here in the States. And so the idea here is we think we can do more than we actually can do. And we give up mastery for this kind of perception of being okay at a bunch of things.
FOMO as well, right? That whole thing of, fear of missing out, gotta jump over there, gotta do this, gotta do that. And I know some people that suits quite well to a degree. Like I look at them and they've often, they're good at focusing on one thing at a time, and they're good at sticking at it for a period of time. And I don't know, maybe they stick at it as long as it serves them, and then when it stops, they'll move on to the next thing. And they cycle through different interests and different passions quite quickly. And there's been times in my life when I've tried to adopt that, and it's created more chaos for me than enjoyment. Mm-hmm. Because I like to simplify things, and I like to pick something and go deep on it. And I find that if I drop something and move on to the next, I start to feel a bit, how would I put this? Like it is a shiny object. Like I've either not picked the right goal in the first place, and I've picked something I thought that I should do, or would look cool to do, or would be a nice to have, and avoided the thing that I really would love to do that scares the crap out of me, and I don't have a clue how I'm going to do it. But when you sit with it and you sit with the agitation, you ask the questions and you ask for help and you find people that have been there, then that's when you really start to achieve some great things. But it's when you play small, or definitely smaller than you're capable of, and settle, that I think you have more of a tendency to jump around, because by default, you're not fully engaged in a task that requires your full engagement, right? Because if you choose a goal, really, that's going to really require a push of you, and to stretch you, it's going to require a lot of you, all of you maybe, just to find the answers and to deal with the agitation and to sit there for 2 hours in an afternoon thinking, how the crap am I going to do? What can I do to actually hit this, right? Rather than just choosing the path of least resistance and shifting. So I don't know, whether maybe it works for some people, but it definitely doesn't work for me.
Yeah, you do a great job of this, quite honestly, especially like with the breath work comes to mind or some aspects of the movement that you've dove into over the last 6 months. But what hit me the most as probably someone who dabbles a lot, right? Kind of, I used to use the excuse of almost like a Renaissance man where you can do a lot of things really well. But what really hit me when I first read this and when I started applying it was the do not do list. The five list,
Mhm.
whatever, right? To me, that was no big deal. I got my, I do this, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades of goal setting and stuff. So that's over 20 years under my belt of goal setting. Nothing new there. The do not do list. And the key to me here, guys, is that this do not do list isn't like, you know, don't do drugs, right? Or don't do heroin or something that, yeah, okay, no problem. I'm not going to drink, no big deal. Or, whatever. You get the idea. The do not do list are things that you want to do above and beyond, like, and they could be very healthy things for you, right? So if one of your top five, as an example, or excuse me, one of your top 25 is to travel to the UK to attend an alpha reset in the UK with Tim, right? But it's not in your top five, and that opportunity comes up, you pass on it. Like it's a hard no. It's a do not, it's like a do not under any circumstances do list until you hit your top five. That's friggin' big. And if your top five is to save your marriage, then you're friggin' better get your butt on a plane to the UK or to the States to be at an alpha reset. You just have to do it. However, it's really up to what you want to do. And that do not do list, I think, is where really the power in Warren's wisdom is. And that's where it lies. And sitting down and thinking about it and, and writing that out. And what I found myself doing, Tim, is crap, how do I pick five here? Because knowing that the other 20 I can't do, and I can apply this to the programs that we're doing at the Powerful Man right now. We've got a nonprofit that's already launched. We've got tons of programs for the men to help them out, not only becoming better fathers, but also becoming better men and then community leaders and all of these things that are launching. We could apply the same rule to our business, right? As the movement is concerned, we could apply the same 25 rule to my family. Here are the 25 things that we want to do, right? Remodeling the house, going on a trip, going visiting here. What are those 5 key core elements that are going to get us where we want to go? Cool. That's easy. To me, that's easy, right? I'm a type A personality. I'm very competitive, but eliminating those other 20, ooh, that's where it gets tough and interesting for me. And that's where the game shifts.
No, it's interesting. I totally hear what you're saying and I get it. And there's so much value as well if you can layer into this knowing yourself, right? Because one of the major strengths for you is the visionary aspect, right? Your ability to see things, come up with ideas. So it serves you in many ways. And you then get to balance out that side of you with people and process ways of operating, I'll say, that help you to stay focused. Because also at the same time, there's some benefit, right, in you choosing those 5 and then getting them done and then moving on to the next 5, let's say. Also, there's just like with anything, every strength can become a weakness, right? So there's got to be an element of awareness to it. And I just wonder the whole idea. I love the idea of the not to do list, and I wonder. Obviously, Warren Buffett. I'm going to listen to him, right? And I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here with, okay, if I had a not to do list versus just a to do list, would I be more likely to want to do the things that I'm not supposed to do because I've got a not to do list? And then I'm looking at the not to do and I'm like, it's like temptation. It's like when you're wanting to eat clean, right? It's just easier to not buy any treats and have them in the house because then you're not going to go out and get them. Because if you have them there, you're tempted. So if you have the not to do list, am I going to be tempted to want to go there? Whereas if I just have my to dos, then I'm not even thinking about the not to dos.
Yeah, I hear you, but and so let's use me as an example for you and I, because we both know me that the seat that I sit in any organization I've been in is that visionary leader seat in creation and kind of looking at the future and building strategy. But having a not to do list of checking messages in the morning, as an example, when I do that, it throws my whole game off for that day, like it did today, right? And I did it. It's tempting. I don't always follow it, but I have a not to do list. Do not check these messages before noon, right? That's the ideal situation to get the powerful man to where it needs to be, right? The to-do list is, actually doing the podcast as an example, right? Content is a general cap. So where I look at this from a business standpoint, if I was to go in and coach a business leader, I'd say, look, what are the 5 things that you could do, the 25 things that you need to do? What are the 5 biggest ones? If you can only do 5, well, I do these things, right? Great. Delegate the others. Doesn't mean you can't dip your toe in them and do it. Delegate them out, right? Yes, you probably need to be involved in sales. Delegate it out though, right? Focus on what's going to move the needle for you and your business. The same thing happens with my marriage, right? If I look at the 25 things that would move the needle in 2021 in my marriage, easy to write them down. But there's going to be 5 core things to do, right? And if my wife and I can, let's say, for example, learn something and come up with a new skill, because we both like to learn, right? If I focus there, then I don't get as distracted, right? Going through it. And I keep that focus. We walk away, we're both going to feel more satisfied by the end of this or what have you. Or if I pick a skill that I want to develop within myself, that's going to better connect me to my wife or intimacy, right? Things of that nature. It's just easier to get there. Because I can tell you, man, I've had learned Spanish, to speak fluent Spanish and Chinese on my list of goals for a long time, but I've dabbled, right? I do it when the time is convenient, right? I use the app when the time is convenient. I talk to my Spanish coach when it's convenient or once a week when I do it regularly, but it's not getting me where I am. However, if I just said this year, I'm going to learn Spanish or Chinese, that's what I'm going to do, Mandarin and Spanish, that would be a huge difference. And if I cut out all the other noise, and that's where I just think that is the secret here. I think a lot of the men that we talk to before they come into the program are sitting on the fence. Should I do this? Should I not? And they start to dabble. They start to go, okay, I'm going to listen to this podcast. I'm going to apply some of them. They get sidetracked because their business, something happens in business or something happens externally, or things start to go well for a little while. I just got an email from a guy today who said, man, I just want to thank you and Tim and the team. I listened to your podcast. It's changed. My wife wanted divorce, right? I applied some of the techniques. Things got better and they're really good right now. Just wanted to thank you guys. I'm like, that's awesome, man. But if you take your eye off the ball, as you were saying about this guy in the inner circle, if you take your eye off the ball or you get too cocky, that's when problems arise. And that's where I think the magic in Warren's wisdom here. And yes, everything you got to apply individualistically to yourself. But I think that's where the magic is. And that's why I created a workbook on this topic for the guys. Guys, if you want this workbook and you want to it's a worksheet more than anything. But if you want to work through this in the way that I like to work through it, simply go to thepowerfulman.com/Warren. That's WARREN, right? thepowerfulman.com/Warren. And you can actually download the worksheet that I created just specifically for this exercise, because I think it's going to give you insight. And maybe it's going to give you insight on the 5 things that are most important to you. Because that's hard. When you get down 1, 2, and 3 are usually kind of easy. But man, coming up with 4, 5, 4 or 5, because you got to start cutting things out and really looking at what really matters to you. And then having my not to do list, right? Those 20 items, and maybe you make it less, it's up to you. But those 20 items that I'm not going to do, right? That's what I'm not going to be a master chef this year. I'd love to learn to cook so I can cook amazing meals for when you and Amelia come to visit. But sorry, Tim, didn't make my 5 key things. And I would just going to be dabbling in it. So it's things like that really help set the tone and where you want to be. And we talked about this before, but in doing this practice and getting this worksheet, guys, and downloading it, and actually, so I'm going to have 2 worksheets for you. One you guys can download and just fill out yourself, and one separate worksheet that you can just print out, right? They just look different. So one's more printer friendly. So I did 2 for you guys listening to this. So you'll have both options. But the key here is by doing this exercise, I'm voting for the man that I want to be in 2022 at the end by eliminating things that I'm not going to do. Cool. I might not get these things done, but I'm going to get these 5 things. If I crush these 5 things, Doug Holt 2022 is going to be stoked. That guy's going to be happy. And by making that decision, I'm making a vote for him, his future, his family's future, and the future of his wife. And that's a powerful thing.
Kind of put these guys at disadvantage as well. I'll just stick up for them a bit here. The fact that they know they've got to eliminate 20, that's going to make it even harder. I think if they were sat at the side of you, the 5 that they would have circled, I think they would have circled them a lot faster. If you would have then said afterwards, okay, so the other 20, they're gone. But now they know it's coming. They've got a challenge ahead of them, right? Because they're going to be making that list with a little bit of, which one am I going to put on? Which one? It's so yeah, the workbook I think will be a real help for this.
Oh, absolutely. And at least I found it a way. That's the way that I organize it and asking the right questions to take you through this process. But guys, like everything, right? You got to do the work, right? The theory of doing it doesn't help you, right? The theory of what it feels like to fall out of a plane going skydiving is very different than actually doing it. I can tell you from experience, very different. And it's the theory of doing the things that Tim and I talk about is very different than taking action, right? On your 25-5. Bonus points for any guys that want to share theirs in the Facebook community, right? You go over there, you can actually share your results with the other guys and get some accountability from men just like you. Right? As guys, we all often complain that it's so hard to find someone in my area who I can talk to and have fun, have a drink, have in-depth conversations that matter, but also shoot the shit. All these guys exist and they're in one place, and that's the Powerful Man Facebook community. So guys, again, I'm going to encourage you, go over to thepowerfulman.com/Warren. That's thepowerfulman.com/Warren. Get this free workbook. There's no strings attached. Just get it, print it out, or fill it in the way I like to do, and enjoy and see what this road's going to lead to you.
I'm going to head over there and download that.
Yep, I thought you would. And I want to see yours as well, man, which is awesome. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today. And as always, like I said, get the workbook. And if you have a moment, it would mean a lot to Tim and I if you just take a second to leave an honest, authentic review for us on wherever you're finding this, so other men just like you can see it. It would really touch us. We read them, and we greatly appreciate it. Guys, have an amazing day and always take action. We'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.